Hi, my name is Norman Parham. I was born in Washington, D.C. I spent a tour in the military. I was with the U.S. Army. As a matter of fact, I was with an air cavalry unit of the 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. My tour of duty included North Carolina, Fort Eustis, Virginia, uh, a part of Germany. What in the world is the name of that part of Germany? Mainz Gunzenheim, right outside of Frankfurt. And also a tour of Vietnam, which is really interesting. What I need to tell you about is a little bit of the history that actually brought Kevin to this country. Kevin, I was wondering if you ever thought about it, how it is that your mom and your dad are both 100% Vietnamese, but yet still you were born and raised here in this country. Did you ever think about that?
No, not really.
Well, I want to tell you a little story. It's very interesting. When I was in Vinh Long, Vietnam, that's a southern province in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we were young. We had friends. Believe it or not, I was 17 years old at one time. That's not the case today. I'm probably 100 times that now. But in 1971, I was in Vinh Long, Vietnam. I happened to be on guard duty one night, and my friends came back from downtown. We call it the Ville, short for the village.
Gotcha.
And they were saying, Parham, that's my last name, Norman Parham. Parham, guess what happened? Well, what happened? Let me know. What happened? Well, we were downtown in the village, and we got surrounded by some Arvins. An Arvin is a soldier, a Vietnamese soldier, a professional soldier. Not Viet Cong, not to be confused with Viet Cong. But the story goes that we got into the bar called the Mayflower, and we were drinking. We were having our drinks, and it was, it's a bar restaurant, the Mayflower. I remember it very well. Good old soul music, 1970s music. And they said, well, while we were down there, we noticed that some guys were making a little bit of trouble with the local workers there, which were, Vietnamese ladies that sold something called Saigon tea and also restaurant menus, chicken and rice or whatever, pho. Ooh, pho.
Pho.
Yeah. And I said, okay, go ahead. What happened? They said all of a sudden the mood turned kind of bad. The mood turned bad, and as a result of this mood, women were crying, and they were very afraid. And tell me more. What happened? What is the cause of this? Well, what happened was these Arvin soldiers began to rob these ladies of their hard-earned money.
Yeah.
And at that time, back then, money was not easy to come by in South Vietnam, down in Vinh Long, where your grandma was working.
Yeah.
As a waitress. Okay, so they continued the story, and they said that the guys would go around from one table to another table and demand money, even from American soldiers. Some American soldiers, just to keep the peace, went in their pocket and gave these Vietnamese soldiers some money. And the other thing was that they started robbing the waitresses also.
Gotcha.
All right? Now, it came to the table where my boys were, and of course, they weren't going to have it. They wasn't having it.
Yeah.
So, it was kind of a standoff. And of course, me being 18, no, I was 21 at the time. No, 20.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, me being at that age at the time, what I wanted to do was get off guard duty and immediately go downtown. You know?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Hellraiser, rebel rouser, and just wanted to, deal with this. Just wanted to have some fun,
I know what you're
So the next day came. I was off guard duty, and my boys wanted to go back downtown again. So we went down to the Ville, and sure enough, like clockwork, here they come. And they're going around from table to table and demanding money and insulting people and just boom, 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 banging on the table. And so I said, okay, here we go. They got to our table eventually. Now they demanded money, and they remembered my boys from the previous day. Mm-hmm. And of course, we wasn't having it. We stood up. I stood up first, and then the rest of my boys, they stood up also. Now, we looked at, they're right across the table, right from where I am to where you are. Mm-hmm. And we're looking at each other, and it's speaking in Vietnamese, and boom, boom, give me money, give me money. So we all took a step back, and we looked at each other. Here we go. That's not going to happen, sir. You need to back up, or else something is going to jump off in here real quick, and I mean right now. So they didn't back up. They were from an elite unit called the Black Panthers. And so what? We were from an elite unit too. we were assault helicopter attack squad. So everybody's got all this adrenaline going. You could cut it with a knife, and eventually push came to shove, and the guy, he backed up, and he went to his pocket, not his pocket, but his waistband, his utility belt, we called it, and there was a grenade on his utility belt. He pulled out the grenade, and he held the spoon in his hand. He made sure it didn't spring, but he just held it there. Gotcha. Now, I came downtown, and I had a 45. It was an Army 45. One of those slide action things.
Yeah.
Air cooled, whatever. And I pulled that out on him. So he's standing there with a grenade, and I'm standing there with the 45 cocked. You know?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And so time would pass, and we talking trash to each other. Big trash talking. Hey, you MF? Yeah, I'll do this and I'll do that. Dole Miami. You know what that means, F you, okay? Yeah. So the insults are flying back and forth. And then this little boy, we had became friends. Me and this little boy had become friends. Uh-huh. He gets out on the ground, comes under the table, and sneaks out the back door. And he gets the QCs. That's the name for the military police. Yeah. I don't know what the real word is, I just say military police, but they were QCs, had it on their helmet. The QCs came in there, didn't pull any guns, just started grabbing these guys, body slamming them, stomping them, slapping them around, and the next thing you know, they're hauled out of there and in jail. They don't even use handcuffs. They're quite different than our military. Okay, the whole point of this story is leading up to why you are here in this country. Mm-hmm. At this time, I didn't know the ladies in there, but my boys, that was like their second or third time there. We all got together and ordered some food and sat down there, and the ladies came over. Thank you so much. And we didn't know these girls, but they said, one girl said, hey, I like you, to my friend Smith. Uh-huh. And first Smith said, well, can I come back and see you again? And she, yeah, you come see me. And then another one of my boys, William Taylor, hey, a girl came over to him and said, hey, I like you. Can you come back and see me again? Yes. And that's where your grandma comes in there. And she says, I like you. I think you number one. And I'm sitting there, I'm like 20 years old, and I'm not very worldly at this point. I came from my hood directly to Vietnam. Okay? And she's talking to me and she says, I like you. Can you come back to see me? What's your name? My name is Parham. She reads my name tag. Okay, come back to see me. Okay, so, I did come back to see her, and we all became friends, and we all got to know each other very well. And she ended up being my girlfriend, and as time went on, we became very close, and that resulted in the birth of your aunt, Linda.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of Linda's birth, your mom, I was able to bring Linda here to the United States, and your aunt was able to come with my daughter as the escort of an American child citizen. After they got here, time went by, and your mother was at that point in a camp in the Philippines somewhere because she was not 18 years old. Mm-hmm. After she became 18 years old, she was able to come also because your mom sponsored her and the other children that she had at that time. So my daughter was able to come here, and your grandma, right?
Yeah.
Was able to come as the escort of an American child citizen. And as she came here, your mom and your dad got married, mm-hmm. and that's how you came to be here in this country. That's how you came to be here, and I consider you're very lucky because mm-hmm. you could have been born in Vietnam.
Yeah,
but now you're in college. You're doing this. What's this called that you're doing?
An oral history.
Okay, you're doing the oral history. You're doing good, and I'm sure that you're going to graduate and make big bucks one day. Huge bucks.
Also, I wanted to say something. So, you told me before in 1988 on mm-hmm. February the 5th you were in Vietnam for, you said 2 jobs?
Well, I went over there. They trained me at Fort Eustis, Virginia, mm-hmm. to be a helicopter mechanic.
Gotcha.
But when I got over there, they turned me into a door gunner. That's the guy that stands in the door. He lays down fire and protects the soldiers that are actually in trouble or mm-hmm. getting off the plane that we transport there. There's several jobs that I did as a result of being trained as a helicopter mechanic. After I found out that I didn't have to go out and get shot at every day, then I changed my MOS. That's the job. That's the job that we do. Mm-hmm. MOS is your job. What's your MOS? Well, I'm a helicopter mechanic. So I changed my job, and I went to something called subsystem armament mechanic. That's where you load up the rockets. You perform any job that you need to be done on the electronics or the computers that control the launching of the rockets or the miniguns, whatever ammo drums you need to load up or whatever. You fix whatever it is on the spot. A lot of time they would take me and drop me off in the middle of combat somewhere, just a little bit out of the way, and they would go out and kick some butt, and then I would have to reload them with rockets and miniguns and things like anything that's done that happened that didn't go right, like an ammo drum was malfunctioning or a minigun would jam or something like that. That was my job. I'd have to take care of it on the spot. And they knew where I was too. They were like, pop, and I was like, woo, oh God. Okay, so what else you got there for me?
So basically, I wrote down some things. So you said you were in Vinh Long for
Long, yes.
Yeah, so you were in Vinh Long for your helicopter machine, like mm-hmm. repairing. Mm-hmm. Then you became a door gunner for 6 months, right? In
Da Nang.
Oh, Da Nang.
That was up north. A lot further up north where it's more dangerous.
So basically, there was an article that you gave to me, like a newspaper,
right,
that was talking about how you brought my grandma and Linda, and basically all my family over here.
And your family started from there. Your mom's here. Your great grandmother's here.
Yeah.
And her family. Mm-hmm. All of your aunts are here as a result from that one action. I think the president calls it chain migration.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. Mm-hmm. It's not bad. And as far as my opinion goes, I think chain migration. If people come here and do the right thing, I think it's good. Look at you.
Yeah.
You're in college. You have every intentions of going all the way and doing the right thing, and I think it's a great thing. In your case, it's a blessing.
Gotcha. And so I wanted to bring up the newspaper article. So you were a driving instructor as soon as it hit.
Oh, I had many jobs.
Yeah.
But when I came back home, one of the things, I was a driving instructor. Yeah.
Yeah, because I wanted to because when you came back with my family to Reston, a news article came out about you.
Yeah,
and it was fairly big.
Well, actually, at that time, the driving instructor was behind me. At that time, I had 11 guys working, and what we did was we did window cleaning in people's houses.
Ah,
Okay. So at that time, when my daughter came here, that's what I was doing. I had a business called Class Glass Window Cleaning of Reston.
I see.
Yeah.
And also, there's basically a bunch more, like, this newspaper is huge. It has a bunch of stuff about you.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know, a little bit more about your backstory, like how you went to Vietnam, like how you started to go, like, deploy into Vietnam, like.
Okay. I went from San Francisco in 1971 to Bien Hoa, which was, I think it was an Air Force base. They located me there in a transportation company called 611th Transportation because of my aviation experience. From there on, I was sent to Vinh Long. And Vinh Long, as I said, is down south. And from there, I spent, I guess, about 6 months in Vinh Long. And I worked as a helicopter mechanic.
Yeah.
Well, not as a helicopter mechanic. At that time, they had sent me as a door gunner.
Yeah.
And then from there, I went up north. But in Da Nang, where I was up north, I continued to be a door gunner until I figured out that I didn't have to be a door gunner anymore. And then I went back to a mechanic's job. But I guess you want to know some things about something interesting about what happened in Vietnam.
Yeah. Anything fun?
Well, first of all, believe it or not, the worst thing that ever happened to me was not getting shot at, which we did quite often. We'd go out and fly around and come back with holes in the helicopter every other day. Real dangerous job. As a matter of fact, my job, the life expectancy of a door gunner at the time, I think it was something ridiculous, like between 3 and 6 minutes. Just amazing that I didn't get killed. Well, anyway, believe it or not, the worst thing that ever happened to me was not being shot at. The worst thing that ever happened to me, I'd wake up in the morning and somebody be outside my door say, "Oh, Parham, it happened again, man. What happened? What happened? There's a snake under your bunk. Be careful how you be careful how you walk, man. Walk real slow." I said, "Oh, Lord, go and get him." And when I said go and get him, I was talking about a guy that was from the country that had no fear of snakes whatsoever. He would say, "Parham, is there another one in there?" Yeah. Please, help me out. So he'd bend down, look under the bunk. "Oh, I see him." I said, "Is he poisonous?" He said, "I don't know, and I don't give a damn, but he's coming out of here." So one way or another, he would pull the bunk out. He'd do whatever he had to do, and bam, he would grab the snake. "Yep, this is poisonous. This is a cobra." And they'd be huge. Sometimes they'd get away and they'd slither back out. But as you come into the hooch, my bunk was the door to my bunk, to my room, was having a small little space that a snake could slither under, and they did. My hooch was the first thing that the snake would put his eyes on when he comes. So naturally, he'd come right under the door and come under in there. So that was the worst thing that, in my opinion, happened to me. Now, I did get shot down once in a helicopter. That was up north. But the one thing that I particularly remember that you might be interested in, your grandmother was able to come and visit me on base.
On base.
On base.
Wow.
In Vinh Long.
Dang.
Okay, so we got really, romantic with each other while she was visiting, and pretty soon she couldn't stand it that I was going to Canto, which was about maybe 30 miles away from Vinh Long, and she would visit me there.
Wow.
But when she visited one evening, all of a sudden all hell broke loose. There was a mortar attack, and they managed to hit the ammo dump there at Canto, at a small section of Canto that we called Bintui.
Mm-hmm.
And all hell broke loose. Wow, it was really bad. And I mean, it went on for hours and hours and hours. And if you know anything about ammunition, one round will set off another. Mm-hmm. One bullet can set off a rocket. Fire develop and boom, 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 boom. So in the panic and all, I was trying to calm her down, but actually I had on these combat boots, these army boots, mm-hmm. and she was wearing sandals. I was trying to calm her down, and I was walking over to her, and my boot hit her toenail and ripped her entire toenail off.
Oh.
I was out of it at that point. I was like, she was bleeding, and all this stuff is going on all around us, and I was like, oh God, what am I gonna do? So I managed to get her to the medic, and they bandaged up her toe. Okay, but that's one of the funny things that I'll never. She thinks it's funny today. At the time, I didn't think it was funny. I was outdone, man. I was like, oh, how could I do that? To this day, I feel so guilty about that. Now, as I moved on, I wasn't able to see her anymore. Mm-hmm. But just before I moved on, she informed me that she was pregnant with your aunt, Linda, mm-hmm. my daughter.
Yep.
So I said, whoa, okay. But then keep in mind, Kevin, at that time, I was still quite young.
Yeah.
And basically, to tell you the truth, at that time, I did not give a damn. Mm-hmm. And I said, I'm going to move on. I'm going to get on with my life. But about a year or so after I got back to the United States, my dad, same name as mine, Norman Parham, he called me. And he said, I need to talk to you. I said, uh-oh, this sounds serious. Okay, Dad, can we talk on the phone? No, I need to see you in person. I'm like, oh, man, what's up? So I went to his house, and he said, is there something you need to talk to me about, talk to your family about? And I said, not that I can think of. And he said, well, listen to me. If I ever told you anything in my entire life that you got to, put in your brain and have it stay there, listen to what I'm about to say now. I said, okay, I promise I will. He said, do you have a daughter in Vietnam? I said, whoa, yes, sir, I do. We still call each other sir and all that stuff. Like, mm-hmm. We showed great respect.
Understand.
I said, yes, sir, I do. He said, well, a letter arrived today, and I'm pretty sure it was intended for you. But since your name is the same as mine, I got the letter. And he says, you can read it. And I took time and I read the letter. And I said, Dad, how did this happen? What's going on? She said, a young lady visited my house from Vietnam. And she gave me the letter in person. And I said, well, what was her name? And it happened to be a friend of your grandmother's. I recognized the name. And she said, can you make sure that you give this to your son? Because he explained to her that the names were the same, his name and my name. So he called me and he gave me the letter. And then I took the letter home and I had a good long think about it. And at that time they used to advertise. Yeah, so I took a good long think, and there were these care commercials that used to come on TV. It's kind of like Feed the Children. And I started thinking about my daughter. I did receive a couple of letters from your grandma, and my conscience got to me.
Gotcha.
At that point, I started growing up. And I started the ball rolling with the State Department. I'll never forget, her name was Jenny Fu.
Jenny Fu.
And at that time, your grandma and my daughter was up north in a re-educational camp where they brainwashed them to, against Americans. And there was no communication with there was no embassy there. There was no communication between the U.S. and the Vietnamese. So time went on, and my paperwork was done, and I just had to sit back and wait. Time went on, it passed, and then finally I got the word that they were able to come here. They came here in 1988, and they've been here soon. They prospered. But honestly, on at least 3 different occasions, I was not supposed to make it back here myself. I would have been dead because of the result of a helicopter crash. We got shot down. I had to go into the tree line and survive until the next day, until somebody could pull us out of there. A guy flew in my seat one day because he wanted to fly one last mission, and he ended up taking rounds under his chin, which went up and scrambled his brain. Just one thing after another. But you're here. I don't know what God's purpose is for you, but it's good. I'm pretty sure. You're in college. Just make sure that you do the right thing after you graduate college. I have every confidence that you're going to do that. Just make sure you do the right thing and be a good man.
I appreciate it.
There you go.
Alrighty. All right. Thank you for the time.
No
Appreciate
problem.
it.